Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Savage Dawn. Now remember, when it comes to Savage Dawn, it was one of the last few crossovers that was done for Superman in the New 52 era. And matter of fact, this was the storyline that was given to us at the tail end of the Truth arc. Now remember, when it comes to the Truth arc, it was all about the idea of doing something new with the character of Superman. And what I mean by that is, he was depowered. You see, when it came to Superman, he gained a new ability known as the solar flare. Now, when it came to the solar flare, he was able to release a huge amount of energy. Now, usually, once he does that, his cells would need to recharge. Once they do recharge, he was back to his old Superman status. The problem was, the last time he did it, well, his cells did not recharge. He was mostly depowered. Now, in the Savage Dawn event, we had actually learned the reason why he was unable to recharge, because his cells were mutated thanks to Vandal Savage. And so because of that, he was unable to actually, well, get recharged to become the man we knew him as Superman. And so when it came to Savage Dawn, we have to remember it's all about Vandal Savage, hence the name Savage Dawn. But when it came to Vandal Savage, his game plan was to find a way to get stronger than he already was. Because we had learned that in the new origin of Vandal Savage, the reason why he was able to gain immortality was not just because the meteorite fell on Earth. It was because the meteor was supposed to hit Krypton many years ago, but then it was sent away by Krypton over to Earth, where of course some pieces of that meteor land right near, of course, Vandal Savage, which then gave him the ability of immortality. Now, we learned in the earlier chapters of this event that Vandal Savage is trying to find more pieces of the meteor, and the reason why, because more pieces he has, the stronger he'll become. The problem is though, only small pieces are falling here and there. And so his goal is to get the entire power source. And so when it came to Savage Dawn, it's him right now just trying to achieve that actual goal. Now, something I forgot to mention was the idea that at the end of the last video we did, Vandal Savage was also trying to steal the Fortress of Solitude. I was supposed to mention that at the end of our last video, but unfortunately I forgot to. And so here's me now telling you that we do pick up with the second half of Savage Dawn. And when we do, we actually see Vandal Savage trying to take up the Fortress of Solitude. Now remember, in the earlier parts of the True Story arc, Superman was unable to access the Fortress of Solitude, and the reason why, because he was depowered. His cells were technically not Kryptonian cells anymore. They had mutated. And so because of that, when he tried to go over to the Fortress of Solitude, you actually had the security system of the place say, no, you are not allowed inside at all. And so right now, he sees his home away from Krypton being taken away by Vandal Savage. He's trying his best to get inside there, but unfortunately, it keeps saying that you are not Kryptonian. You are not allowed in here at all. And matter of fact, it begins to fight against Superman. Now, when it comes to Vandal Savage, we have to remember that part of his plan is to also find all his children across the world. And what I mean by that is, because Vandal Savage has been alive for a very long time, he was able to start different kinds of family lines across the entire world. And so we're not just talking about the idea of 5-6 kids across the world. We are talking about the idea of thousands of children across the world that belong to the family line of Vandal Savage. And the reason why? Because if they're just like him, they'll also have the ability to get stronger when it comes to the meteor. And so it's him saying, I'm trying to change the world. If I'm able to do that, I have to rule this world alongside my children. Now, as we jump into the the 6th chapter of this event, we do see 2 new children of Vandal Savage. Now, these kids right here are only used for this chapter right here, and the only reason why, to fight against Superman and Wonder Woman. Because Vandal Savage needs them to hold off Superman long enough to achieve his goal. Now, the reason why Vandal Savage is trying his best to get the Fortress of Solitude, because he's trying to merge it with the Stormwatch carrier. And let's not forget, Vandal Savage was able to take over the Watchtower as well. And also he has 2 different teams of the Justice League under his control. Not under his control, but they're being held as hostages. Either way, when it comes to the Fortress of Solitude, the Watchtower, and also the Stormwatch carrier, he's trying to merge all 3 ships together. And the reason why? Well, that'll be told to us down the road. But he needs Superman and Diana to be distracted long enough to achieve his next step of his plan. And we kind of find out, honestly, the next section that his big plan, or the next step of his plan, is to kind of attract the comet to come back over to where the Earth is at. Because when it came to the comet that technically dropped different meteorites across the Earth, which of course gave him the ability to live forever and ever, immortality, he's trying to gain more of that power. The problem is though, most of the comet had already passed the Earth. And so his goal is to kind of bring the comet back to the Earth so that he is able to take the comet's power and become even stronger. And when it comes to his children, they will also gain a whole lot of powers as well, being close to the meteor as well. And so it's him saying, yes, what I'm trying to do right now is use the power sources of the Watchtower, the Fortress of Solitude, the Stormwatch carrier, the energy of the heroes to bring that comet back over here. And so it's him currently trying to begin the process. Unfortunately, Superman and Diana, they have to deal with the 2 new children that were introduced in this chapter to give us one heck of a fighting scene. And when it comes to the rest of the first chapter, it's really more of Superman and Diana trying to work together as a way to stop Vandal Savage's plan, but at the same time, stop the twins that were introduced to us in this chapter. Now here's the thing though, because when it comes to Vandal Savage, part of the Stormwatch carrier is beginning to go down into the Earth. And the thing is, if it actually does touch the surface, it could cause a huge explosion in that area of the Earth. And so you have Clark try his best to stop that piece of the Stormwatch carrier from hitting the Earth. But at the same time, him and Diana are still trying to fight against the twins, who are the children of Vandal Savage, who are trying to stop them from basically achieving their goal. And so the rest of the first chapter is all of that. Now, by the time we do reach the end of the first chapter, Diana and Clark are able to take out the twins just like that. The problem is though, that one piece of the Stormwatch carrier is still going down into the Earth, to the point where it actually does touch the ground. It does cause a huge explosion. But with that huge explosion, we're left to wonder what happened to Clark, what happened to Diana. But on top of that, we're left to wonder, was Vandal Savage able to bring the comet back over to the Earth area of space? Because if he did he is able to take the next step of his plan to hopefully gain more powers, but also his children as well. And so getting into the second chapter of this book, at first, we're left to believe that Clark Kent is actually dead. Now, we already know that Homeboy is not dead, but the way the story is going is kind of like, did Clark Kent survive that explosion? Now, you do have Diana trying her best to dig out the man she loves out of the pile of debris. Now, the reason why I say the man she loves is because when it came to DC Comics in the New 52, they were really trying their best to push this idea that Superman should date Wonder Woman, that he should no longer be with Lois Lane, and she should only be for him. Now, when it came to this idea, you had a lot of fans say no. You had some fans say yes, but you had more fans say no than yes. But either way, DC tried their best to push this agenda. Either way, it's her trying her best to dig out the man she loves. Now, we also see Lois Lane and Metallo appear. Now remember, when it came to Metallo in the New 52, at first he was a bad guy for Superman, but later on he turned into a good guy who was trying his best to protect the woman he loves, which is Lois Lane. Even though Lois does not love him back, he's kind of like, listen, I love her and I would do anything to protect her. And so you have Lois tell Metallo, get down there, help Diana to find Superman, to make sure that he is alive. And then out of nowhere, you have Clark Kent being able to just pop out of the pile of debris to show that he is A-okay. Now, something else I forgot to mention is that when it comes to Clark Kent, in the earlier parts of Savage Dawn, he was able to regain some of his powers. And what I mean by that is, when he learned that his cells were mutated, he felt like kryptonite was probably the best way to get rid of cells that had mutated. Instead, what happened was the cells got charged up by the kryptonite, which of course gave him some powers to use temporarily so that he is able to fight against Vandal Savage. Now here's the thing though, because with those cells being charged up, they're still holding a lot of kryptonite energy, and so that energy is currently killing off his healthy cells, the ones he needs to charge up by the sun to be the Superman we used to know him as. And so he has to find a way to take down Vandal Savage, deal with his kryptonite cells, and then find a way to finally recharge and be the old man of steel. Now here's the thing, because as soon as he was able to show that he is A-okay and be able to continue to fight against Vandal Savage, you have Savage say, put up the force field, because right now they're trying their best to find a way to stop my plan. Now, of course, as soon as the force field goes up, it does push our heroes back, but they also realize now what Vandal Savage is trying to do. He's trying to bring his comet back to Earth so that he is able to absorb all the powers of that comet to gain new abilities to technically make himself a god. Now, here comes the next problem though, because when it comes to Vandal Savage, like I said earlier, this dude has children all over the world. But the thing is, some of those people are actually his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and the list goes on. But they do share his genetics. He is technically their ancestor. And so because of that, they're also able to use the powers of the meteor, of the comet. And so as soon as it does get close enough to the Earth, well, you have more people across the world begin to gain abilities, because now it's Vandal Savage saying, if you are somehow related to me, I turned on your genes. But on top of that, your powers are already evolving thanks to the meteor. And so this is your chance to join my side to help me change the world for the betterment. Now, while you have Vandal Savage making that speech, we do see other characters from across the world beginning the process of gaining abilities. Now, when it comes to Clark Kent, him, Wonder Woman, and also Metallo are trying to break down the force field and then hopefully get back over to Vandal Savage and to finally defeat him. Now remember, when it comes to Clark Kent, he is currently being powered up by kryptonite. And so he was able to get more power by just standing near Metallo, because Metallo heart is just kryptonite. And so just being near it, he got strong enough to begin the process of breaking down the force field. Now you have Vandal Savage tell all his children across the world, the ones who are technically nearby Superman, to come over here to fight against him, to technically stop him, because now here he is. He's trying to break down a force field. If he does, he'd be able to get to Vandal Savage and most likely stop Vandal Savage from taking over the world. And so with that being said, it's him just saying, hey children, go ahead and attack Superman. Now luckily for Clark, there's still heroes out there. And so those heroes arrive to help out Superman. Now you're kind of like, okay, the day is saved. But the thing is, the book is trying to tell us that's not correct, because these heroes are technically the C-list characters, the D-list characters. Your big time, big league heroes are right now being held as hostages by Vandal Savage. And so currently, these are the only heroes who can help out Clark. But for Clark, he still believes in the idea that these heroes in him should be able to take down Vandal Savage. Now, as the fight goes on, Metallo gets killed off. Literally, someone blasts a hole through his chest. And so, before he dies, he tells Superman, take my kryptonite heart. Take it and use it to power yourself up, to break that force field, and to hopefully take down Vandal Savage. And so you have Clark listen to this man. He's all like, fine, if you think this could help me, if you think this is the right move because you're going to die, then I'm going to honor your decision. He takes the heart of Metallo, he gets even stronger, and he breaks down the force field. And so now he's able to get back over to Vandal Savage and to hopefully defeat him. And so as we jump into the third chapter of this event, we actually do pick up with Superman right now giving us a recap of what happened in all the different storylines that led up to this moment. So everything you saw in the Truth arc, everything you saw in the preludes, everything you saw so far in Savage Dawn is just him recapping everything. But at the same time, the book is kind of telling us that this could be the end for Superman and the Earth, because technically right now, Vandal Savage is winning. He's being able to prove that he had thought this plan completely throughout the point where it should not fall apart at all. But of course, this is a superhero book, so somewhere down the road, Vandal Savage is going to lose. Either way, it does look like our hero is about to lose. But then even more heroes show up. Now, there's one hero in particular I do want to talk about, and that is Batman. Because by this point in the New 52, the Batman you see is not Bruce Wayne. It is actually Jim Gordon. At the tail end of the New 52, DC was also trying to do something different with Batman. And they felt like by removing Bruce Wayne again and replacing him with Jim Gordon could be a very interesting idea. And so in this storyline, you are seeing Jim Gordon being Batman with other heroes trying to help Superman battle against the forces of Vandal Savage. And so then we see Superman trying to make his way over to Vandal Savage to hopefully defeat him. Now, while he's doing that, you have Vandal Savage and the children who are very close to Vandal Savage get very upset about the idea that Superman is not stopping, that he cannot be stopped, that every single time they beat him down, he finds a way to get right back up and tries to continue to stop Vandal Savage. Now, one of the children of Vandal Savage, Salax, he wants to go up against Superman once again. And we saw him in the earlier chapters of Savage Dawn trying to fight against Superman. But unfortunately for Salax, Superman was able to win that battle, but now he feels more confident that he'll be able to defeat Superman so that Vandal, his father, will be able to achieve his goal. Except you have Savage tell his kids, no, you will not fight against Superman at all. Matter of fact, you guys are going to stay here until you guys are truly ready. Now, we have no idea what he means by that, but apparently he says, sooner or later, you guys will be ready to take over the world. But right now, you are currently not ready for it yet. And so then he goes off to fight against Superman. But then we kind of find out that Vandal Savage has activated the self-destruct button on his craft. And the reason why? Because now he has the opportunity to kill off all the innocent people underneath him right now when it comes to his spaceship. And so you have three people who are close to Clark Kent, regular human people, trying to help out other innocent people get the heck out of there before they're all crushed. That will be Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Lee Lambert. Now, when it comes to Lee, we met her in the earlier parts of the Truth arc, and she was just your regular, I want to say she was a police officer or a firefighter. Either way, she was just your regular person that became friends with Clark Kent right after he was depowered, but still tried to save Metropolis. As a matter of fact, she helped him out when it came to fighting against Wraith. Either way, you have Clark Kent trying to tell his friends to get the heck out of there before they're crushed by all that debris that is falling out of the sky. But they tell him, no, we're here to help you out. There are innocent people right now that have to be saved. So don't worry about us. Only worry about dealing with Vandal Savage. But before you have Superman being able to fight against Vandal Savage, you have Superman realize that this is the best chance to save the other heroes who were captured by Vandal Savage. The Justice League and also the Justice League United. They were both captured by Vandal Savage. They were having their energy drained by Vandal Savage as a way to bring that comet over to the Earth. And so you have our hero being able to free the other heroes. Now, this is where you have the other heroes realize how far Clark had went to just get some powers to help save the day. And what I mean by that is, remember, Clark Kent is only being powered up not by the sun, but by kryptonite. And so you have Lex Luthor, who was also part of the Justice League around this point, tell Clark that he is technically a DA, a dumb you-know-what. And the reason why? Because this man's body is being poisoned thanks to kryptonite, killing off his healthy cells to just get some power to save the day. Now for Clark, he's kind of like, dude, I did this as a way to save the Earth. You may hate me for it, but in reality, what I did, what I'm doing right now is helping to save the world. So shut up and be quiet. And so then you have Vandal Savage tell his children to go ahead and get inside a space shuttle that this man had already made earlier in the storyline for unknown reasons, but now we know why. And the reason why, he's going to use his kids as lab rats. What I mean by that is he wants to know what happens to people when they get close to the comet and being able to gain a huge mass of powers all at once. Like, what happens to your body? What happens to your mind? Do you gain new abilities? Do you lose your abilities? Do you gain something crazy on your body? Like, what happens to you once you are close enough to gain more powers from the comet? He wants them to be his lab rats. Now, with that being said, Clark tries his best to tell the children of Vandal Savage to get off the space shuttle because Vandal did not tell them anything at all. All he said is that once you are close enough to the comet, you, my children, will gain new abilities. That's all he said. They have no idea that technically he is just using them as lab rats. Now, Clark tries his best to stop the shuttle, to convince the children to get out of there, but unfortunately, they're not leaving. Now, when it comes to Clark, he is hanging on for dear life as the shuttle heads closer and closer to the comet in space. The problem is, though, Vandal Savage is on that shuttle as well. He pulls Clark up and he shoots Clark 3 times with some kind of toxins that are going to kill off the rest of the healthy cells in his body. We're left to believe again this time that Clark Kent is about to die. And this leads into the return of Superman. And what I mean by that is, as you have Clark Kent falling to his death, literally, he does fall through the Fortress of Solitude. Because remember, the Fortress of Solitude plus the Watchtower was part of the Stormwatch carrier. Either way, as he falls through the Fortress of Solitude, it finally reads Clark Kent as a Kryptonian. But at the same time, it is able to heal his body, to make him whole again. He is finally back as to Superman. He's no longer that D-power character. He's no longer that kryptonite charged Superman. This is our old school, not really old school, but I guess the early days New 52 Superman. He is ready to go. Now, right after he is able to come back with all his powers, you have other heroes ready to celebrate. Unfortunately, though, we kind of find out the children of Vandal Savage, they did make it up to that comet. They did gain some new abilities. They did get stronger, and they're on their way back down to Earth to fight against Superman and the other heroes who are going to help him fight against them. And so as we jump into the 4th chapter of this event, we did pick up with technically our heroes fighting against the children of Vandal Savage. And literally the 4th chapter, the opening pages of the 4th chapter are just splash pages of our heroes just going up against these other bad guys who are currently working for Vandal Savage. And it goes on for a good few pages. Now, we did have to shift our focus over to Vandal Savage. And the reason why, because you have Vandal Savage beginning the process of saying, look at my children. They were able to technically gain more powers, get even stronger. And that shows me that my plan is going to work for myself. My test subjects, my lab rats, they survived, they're okay. And now it's time for me to go ahead and try to gain more powers for myself. And so he begins the process of fighting against other heroes, but then getting a jetpack to hopefully fly him up in the sky far enough and then try to jump even higher up in the sky to hopefully reach the actual comet. Now, Superman sees him, and so you have Clark Kent saying, okay, I gotta stop him, because if he's able to get his hands on that comet, we have no idea what could technically happen to him. And so you have Clark try his best to hopefully catch up to Vandal Savage to just stop him. Now, you do have other characters try to stop him, but unfortunately, they're not strong enough to stop our big blue boy. But the chapter really ends with the idea of Vandal Savage being able to get close enough to the comet, and we're left to wonder, how powerful will he truly become now? Will he become a god? Now, as we jump into the 5th chapter of this book, we do see the fight between Superman and also Vandal Savage continue on. Now, while you have the two characters fighting against each other, you also have Superman being able to just beat down over and over on Vandal Savage. But the problem is, though, he is getting stronger and stronger. And what I mean by that is Vandal Savage is gaining more and more power from the actual comet, to the point where he is able to reach new heights with his abilities to now let him beat down on Superman. And so now the battle is in favor of Vandal Savage, to the point where he is able to knock Clark all the way back down to Earth. After doing that, you did have Vandal Savage begin to tell Puzzler, let's show Clark Kent what I'm able to do. Let's show him all the different kinds of possibilities when it comes to my powers. And so the first thing he sees or goes through when it comes to this virtual simulator is being back on Krypton with his parents, Jor-El and also Lara. But on top of that, it's Vandal Savage showing an alternate timeline where his parents never did die, that Krypton never did blow up. But on top of that, he never left, that he was able to be raised by them. And the reason why you have Vandal Savage doing this for is to say, listen, Clark, you don't know the true origin of the meteor. See, originally it was supposed to hit Krypton, but it was sent away by Krypton over to Earth, which then gave me my ability of immortality, but also other powers as well. Now, with that being said, though, he's trying to tell Clark, look how great this power is. If your people had actually accepted this gift, they would have been able to save Krypton. Instead, they got rid of this gift, and their planet, your whole world, was blown up. They should have kept this, and then they would have found a way to save their world. And so he's trying to show the positive effects when it comes to having all this power to himself. But then you have Vandal Savage show an alternate timeline where he's in charge in the future. If Vandal Savage is able to use the power without Superman trying to stop him, he'll then have the ability to make the world a better place. And on top of that, Superman will be on his side as the war general, fighting against the forces who will try to ruin peace across the world. He's trying to show Clark, if you let me have this power, if you let me be in control, this world will finally get better. This world will finally see peace once and for all. If anybody tries to take that peace away from us, you'll be there right by my side to fight against the people who may try to ruin that. Now, when it comes to Clark, at first, it does seem like a great idea. Like, okay, if Vandal Savage is able to bring all of this to the world with his newfound power, then I might be down. The thing is, when it comes to Vandal Savage, it's the way he is speaking. And what I mean by that is, he basically told Clark, when it comes to this new world that he's trying to build, only the strong is able to survive in this new world. Only the strong will be able to reach this new world. If you are weak, you will never be able to reach this new world. And that right there bothered Clark a lot, because now he's wondering, okay, if you tell me if I let you have all this power and rule the world, only the strong can live, what happens to the weak? And so you have Vandal Savage show Clark, this what happens to the weak. They get killed off. If they cannot survive in my new world, then what's the point of them being around in the first place? Only the strong can help us survive. Only the strong can help us move forward. The weak cannot help us at all. And so it seems like to Vandal Savage that if you don't have powers or you're not able to fight for his future, then what's the point of having you around? And so that right there really does bother Clark a lot. Now, you have Vandal Savage in the simulation, and once he does, he says, you have a choice. Join me or die. And so then he leaves to let Clark think about it. And so this begins the process of wrapping up the story. And what I mean by that is, you have Clark Kent decide that he is not going to help out Vandal Savage at all. Matter of fact, he says, listen, after I realize that you plan on killing off the weak, the defenseless people, to only make your world better in your eyes, that right there is not okay. And he begins to think about Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, because the Vandal Savage, those two folks right there, may be considered to be weak, which means that they could be killed off by Vandal Savage. It's him saying, I have to be the one to protect the weak. Yes, I help out the strong, but I also help out the weak as well. It is not okay to kill them off because they are unable to help you reach your goal. And so you have Clark decide it's time to deal with Vandal Savage. And so it leads into Superman deciding to use his powers to push the comet back into space, to get rid of it far away from the other children of Vandal Savage, so that they begin to lose their abilities. Now, when it comes to Vandal Savage, he's still near his comet. He's still able to draw more power from it. And matter of fact, when he finds out what Clark is trying to do, he is very upset about that idea. He's all like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this for? Leave my comet alone. Except it's Clark saying, no, you are trying to rule a world in a very cruel kind of way, and that is not okay. Now, when it comes to Puzzler, one of the many children of Vandal Savage, but instead they were put inside a robot body, you have Puzzler say, you know what? Clark is right. it's probably better, Father, that you are not in charge. It's probably better for the world to have the heroes lead the world in a better direction. And so you have Puzzler help Superman push the comet back into space. The thing is, the comet does explode. And when it does, it sends Clark and Puzzler back down to Earth, but it also sends Vandal Savage deep into space with the other pieces of the comet. And so we're left to wonder what happened to Vandal Savage after that moment right there. But either way, technically, Vandal Savage was defeated by Superman. The day was saved. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.